This is Duke University.
When I think about Duke Energy and sustainability, some of the challenges we're facing today and in the future, I think I'd focus on a few things. First would be the environmental footprint of the company. There are a number of things we're focused on today to demonstrate to our stakeholders, thinking of North Carolina here in particular, that we're committed to environmental stewardship. We're committed to operational excellence. We're committed to the safety of our communities where we serve. And that's always of importance, but it's of particular importance this year, given the fact that we had a coal ash spill in February of 2014 at one of our ash basin facilities. So thinking about the current operations and how we can run the business in a smart way is always key. I'd also say on a more forward-looking basis, we're very interested in thinking of how we can position our resource mix, the resources that we rely on to generate electricity, coal, nuclear, natural gas, renewable energy, and energy efficiency. We're trying to be thoughtful about how we can continue to bring a diverse set of resources to bear to benefit customers, to benefit the environment, and to benefit our shareholders as well. The utility industry, I believe, is on the cusp of transformational change. And it's interesting if you think about the business model, the operations that we have in place today, there hasn't really been tremendous change in recent years. But as we look forward, I can see a few things in particular that I would point to. One would be technology, emerging technology. And I would look across the entire ecosystem of the electric utility, how we generate electricity, how we transmit electricity, and the delivery point into the home, as well as things that are done behind the meter, so to speak. So in each aspect of that service delivery model, there are exciting things happening from a technology standpoint, many of which Duke Energy is very interested in and acting on today, and others that we're kind of exploring in more of a demonstration scale as they play out over time. So emerging technology is and will continue to have a real impact on the business. Another area that I would point to as an emerging trend would be the customer choice side of the equation in terms of customers wanting more options and flexibility in terms of how they receive service. And this is another example of where if you look over the last 100 years for Duke Energy, and really for any utility for that matter, we've generally delivered electrons in the same way to every customer, regardless of what their personal value proposition may be. So we would like to find a way going forward to better meet customer demand in a differentiated way, just to reflect what's happening in the consumer space in a lot of areas, not just in the utility sector. And then the last area I would point to in terms of trends would be really more focused on the business model of the utility. And here is an area where I think going forward, there will continue to be an element of the business where we're selling electricity, we're basically selling electrons to consumers. But we're also trying to find creative ways to deliver other value propositions to customers. So if they're interested in energy efficiency, we have solutions for customers. If they're interested in renewable energy generation at more of a distributed level, that's the sort of thing that we're not doing today, but that we'd like to explore in the future. And that's an area where I definitely see change coming. That's a great question, whether investors are thinking about sustainability and how this works into the investor mindset. And what I would say is that while most mainstream investors don't necessarily use the word sustainability, I know when I listen to our quarterly earnings calls that I don't hear any questions from the investment community, the analyst community, where they start with the word sustainability. But I would make the argument that when they ask about risk and growth and governance and transparency, these are all topics of great relevance to the mainstream investment community, that whether they would recognize it or realize it or not, they're asking sustainability-related questions. So, I think sometimes with the investment community, it's just a question of vocabulary, but many of the investment analysts that we work with are very focused on long-term value creation, and as a result, I think they're very interested in how Duke Energy thinks and acts on sustainability. When I think about the future and this would really be for the industry, not just Duke Energy in particular, and from a blue sky perspective and where are we going, I can envision a future that's dramatically different than what we experience today in this sector. And I mean that across every element of the value chain. How we generate power, where that power is generated, how it's transmitted, how it's consumed. So to make that tangible, I would picture a future where there's much more of a focus on distributed resources. So the historical model for the industry has been, let's build huge power plants and ship power over large transmission lines and push them through distribution networks. And while that model won't die necessarily, it will certainly evolve.